Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Friday, March 6th, 2026. It's the end of the week. It's been a momentous week, as you all know. It's the end of the day. It's our favorite time where we try and get our arms around what has happened since last we spoke. It's the Intelligence Community Roundtable with my two stalwart, steadfast colleagues and friends, Ray McGovern and Larry Johnson. Today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average went down 450 points. Oil is $90 a barrel. And after 1 week, the price of gas in New Jersey is up 40 cents a gallon. So where does the war stand today, Larry Johnson?
As far as the United States is concerned, not in a good position. News is coming across. So Stars and Stripe just published a request for blood donors at a little town called Kaiserslautern, which is northwest of Stuttgart. Stuttgart is where the command headquarters for EUCOM and AFRICOM are. So Kaiserslautern is an army base. And the fact that they're calling out for blood donations is one part of the story. There's a hospital in Landstuhl in Germany that usually handles combat casualties. They have suspended their obstetrics, pediatric services because of pressing needs. So what this means is that despite what we're being told, the very minimal casualties, the casualties that are occurring in the Persian Gulf are much, much greater than the public has been told about. That seems to indicate this, or otherwise they're getting ready for more casualties. And on that front, there is a word out of Fort Bragg that the 82nd Airborne, who is supposed to have this command exercise starting Sunday or Monday, that has been canceled. Now, if you recall, on February 18th, I had a conversation with one of my old colleagues who still was involved with scripting terrorism exercises for JSOC and SOCOM. And they were supposed to start scripting on the 22nd of February. That exercise was canceled on the 22nd, and 6 days later, the war started in Iran. So there's been rumors afoot. I've got other reports out of Germany.
For perspective, after a week of what Larry quite properly calls madness.
Well, the prospect of seeing Donald Trump naked.
Yeah, scrub our eyes.
People have. Okay. Yeah, you know what interests me as usual is the Russian reaction. I think the reports in the New York Times today are probably completely correct that Iran is using the best technical information. We used to call it technical means. It's satellites of all description and kind for targeting information. And they have every piece of Israel and the U.S. armed forces in view. I asked a very accomplished Russian historian friend of mine, whom I often consult on this. I said, what do you think about this? And he said, well, it's called karma. What we're doing in what we're doing for the Ukrainians is what the Russians are doing for the Iranians. Here, I got that straight this time. So this is very serious. In other words, this is not going to stop anytime soon. The thing that bothers me most, and actually Captain McGovern has buy-in from Colonel McGregor, Colonel Wilkerson, Major Ritter, that the thing to be feared here is Israel using a nuclear weapon or two in extremis. Now, this may sound a little conspiratorial, but everything that's happened, to include killing the supreme leader, to include massacring 163 little girls at that grammar school, okay, to include other things, seems to be designed by Netanyahu, working with this fellow that's not so bright, okay, to put Israel in the situation where they will be attacked. There will be a big affront against Israel, and they will have no other choice but to use a nuclear weapon. Now, in extremis, I think that they would do that. In 73, when Golda Meir was around, they threatened to do that, and Kissinger went out of his gourd and prevented it, okay? Would they do it this time? I think they have in mind doing that. That may sound like a conspiracy, but it's one that would have great, great, great repercussions.
Larry, I know we talked about this earlier, but how badly has Israel been damaged? Or do we not know because of their sensors?
Well, we know indirectly. You're correct about the sensors. They're claiming, oh, yeah, we're shooting down 95% of the missiles. Really? Then show the pictures. Because you know what? It's quite easy to put up video that shows boom, flash as these warheads are destroyed by Israel. Well, they're not doing that. And the reason they're controlling the information so tightly is they are taking a pummeling. I spoke with Stanislav Karpivnik. The Stas is able to see some social media from Russia that Russia has access to that's not being shown in the West. He said Tel Aviv is getting the Gaza treatment right now. So that means they're getting significant destruction in there. And that's the point I'm making in all this is if things are really going your way, if you're conquering territory and taking people right and left, you show the evidence. You show the videos. You don't hide that. You go out and brag. Hey, look at what we did. You're not seeing that. And in fact, what I'm hearing, I've got confirmation now. I was skeptical of the claim that the Kuwaitis had shot down those 3 F-15s, but I've got it from a firm source. The Kuwaitis shot down the 3 F-15s, and they have shot down a number of drones. And U.S. pilots are now saying they would rather be flying over Iran. They think it's safer to fly over Iran than to fly over Kuwait.
Isn't that interesting? Ray, yesterday the president said the Iranians called him and wanted to make a deal. Now, I don't think anybody believes that. My question's kind of long-winded, so you can tie your answer into all of it. Today, he said he'd accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. And then he said, by the way, I, meaning Donald J. Trump, should be able to choose the leadership of Iran. Is he crazy?
Well, I prefer to say he's not well, Judge. This has been clear for the this is nothing to laugh, okay? This has been clear for the last three months, but now over the last couple of weeks, it's been showing that he's really detached from reality. Now, I don't know who's telling him these stuff, or it seems to me he's probably not even checking with anyone before he goes to his little Truth Social. But this is ridiculous in the extreme. And the notion that he would openly brag that he has the right to help appoint the next supreme leader, well, more important, Judge, the cat is out of the bag, okay? We know now that the Israelis mousetrapped us, and we have the Secretary of State, who is also the National Security Advisor, admitting it. He said, as we know, he said, look, the Israelis didn't go anyway, and we were afraid that when the Israelis attack Iran, that Iran might attack us, so we had to do it. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means, as Senator Mark Warner said, no little guy is he. He says, and he's the deputy, he's the second guy in charge of the Senate Intelligence Committee, minority leader. He said, look, are you telling me there was an immediate threat to Israel, or that they said there was, and there was no immediate threat to us? Well, it's clear that there was no immediate threat to us. So you are equating, are you, Rubio, an immediate threat to Israel with an immediate threat to us? That's what you're doing? We're at a hell of a pass if that's what you're doing. That's a paraphrase, but it's very close to what Mark Warner said. So things are changing. It's becoming very clear that this is a war for Israel, and our chief policymakers, whether advertently or inadvertently, are admitting it. And that should be enough for the American people to say, look, do we want body bags coming home in a war for Israel?
Larry, I think Ray is 100% correct. Mark Warner and the other gang members of the other 7 members of the Gang of 8 took an oath not to reveal what Rubio told them. They did not take an oath not to reveal what Rubio did not tell them. And apparently he failed to tell them of any imminent threat to the United States or to Israel.
Right.
Because there wasn't.
Yeah, this the members of Congress are just playing a dangerous game here. If Congress is doing its duty, it should immediately bring up charges of impeachment against Donald Trump for violating the Constitution, for taking the country to war. Instead, what we got a sufficient number of Republicans who are supporting Donald Trump because they bought into all the lies told about Iran. We got some Democrats now who are speaking up, but they're more of the mood to say, now let's just watch Donald Trump stew in his own juices. They're happy to watch him suffer and thrash about as he basically destroys his presidency and replaces Richard Nixon as one of the most detested presidents in the history of the United States. And they'll let that happen because it's just the schadenfreude with it. Instead of intervening and say, okay, we got to do what's right for America right now. We've got to save these kids that are going to be deployed and needlessly killed. We've got to save the loss of life of these Iranians. Because left unchecked, I think there will be ample argument within Iran to say, you know what, God rest the soul of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but we must reconsider building the nuke. I mean, the one guy that was preventing a nuclear weapon from being built in Iran, despite there were others who pressured to do so. But the one guy with the moral authority who was able to withstand that pressure and do the right thing, that's who we killed.
Ray, isn't the murder of the Ayatollah a war crime?
Of course it is. It's more than that. If I were to think of something that would bind the Iranian people together, all the various kinds of Iranians people, there are several tribes or peoples. I mean, there could be no better thing than having a martyr. Now, as I've said before in this program, there's a good model for this. Greater love hath no man than to give up his life for his people. Khamenei predicted this. He told people, look, if I am martyred, I want Larijani to take my place. I want everything because it's likely they'll get me. Why did he think that? Well, he didn't go into any bunker, despite what you hear from the Washington Post, New York Times, or the Israelis. He sat in his office on that morning. He was in his office with his granddaughter, his son, and his daughter-in-law. Okay? Now, why? Because he made it clear, I don't want to be in any kind of more protected situation than the normal Iranian person. I'm willing to die for the flag. And I think, sotto voce, I'm probably worth more to the movement dead rather than alive. Now, people know that. And all this stuff about him being in a bunker and the precision of these missiles. I mean, it's such bunk, it almost gets me angry.
Almost gets you.
It got you angry. Come on.
Larry, can the United States possibly claim the high ground by starting a war of aggression, which under Nuremberg is a war crime, while conducting diplomacy?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the last person who invaded another country that they couldn't at least come up with a reason that might sound justifiable. Like when Saddam invaded Kuwait, he was complaining that the Kuwaitis were drilling underneath the border, taking Iraqi oil, and he went to April Glaspie, the U.S. ambassador, and said, "Hey, look, these guys are stealing our oil. We're gonna go correct that. Do you have any objections?" And April said, "We got no position on that." So Saddam says, "Okay." Apart from that, and I don't like making this comparison, but it fits. The last person to do these kinds of lawless invasions of other countries was